NewsNation correspondent at large, Geraldo Rivera. And Geraldo, I truly appreciate you speaking about Carter. I understand that you were at Carter's first major event outside the South in 1975. He was a long shot candidate at the time. Take us back there. What do you remember?
Well, a fellow named Phil Walden, who was starting a real craze in popular music, Southern rock, was representing a group called the Allman Brothers, a wonderful, wonderful group. Greg Allman later became a real friend of mine. I introduced them. I interviewed them rather for 2020 when I was working there, or ABC News at the time of that's relevant to the Jimmy Carter discussion. He had never been north of the Mason-Dixon line as a major candidate. He was a candidate for president. It was 1975. Nobody knew him outside of the South, particularly outside of Georgia, where he was governor. It happened just one of those things that I was friends with Greg Allman, Phil Walden, the person who headed up the record company, asked me if I would introduce Jimmy Carter. I said, you know, it's kind of tough for me. I'm a newsman, but I can sort of work my way around it by saying I want to introduce you rather than me specifically endorsing him. So I was very proud to cut to the chase. I was very proud. He played a tiny part in the history to help propel this really wonderful man, wonderful, compassionate man. You saw even President Trump, who was a political and philosophical opposite, gave what was really a warm endorsement of Jimmy Carter, humanitarian, former president. And, the fact that I introduced him north of the Mason-Dixon line is a tiny bit of history that I am very honored by, Natasha.
Yeah, you call him a wonderful and compassionate man. I want to talk more about his legacy in a moment. What impression did you walk away with about Carter, and did you think he could win?
Well, I absolutely. I won't say it. It's easy to be retrospectively wise. To try to put myself in the moment, I did not think particularly that he had a strong chance, but I thought that he was the candidate that I wanted to support. He had a freshness about him, an openness about him. He wasn't a machine politician by any means. He had a heart of gold. He was one of the most unusual politicians I'd ever met, in that sense that he really was someone who cared about humanity as reflected. I think he's the most underrated president we've ever had. I think that now that he's had this long life, people are understanding that with Habitat for Humanity and all he did to bring about the peace between Egypt and Israel, all he did to help elevate women and civil rights, and to fight against the scourge of drug abuse and alcoholism. He was just a wonderful, wonderful, caring person, in a sense that he eked out his lateral victory, and then went on. He was defeated ultimately, by Ronald Reagan, but he gave it his all. He was a wonderful president, and an even better in his post-presidential life. I think that history will come to regard him really, truly as one of the best we've had.
The best,
even though
one of the
that
best
was
we've
certainly not the case in terms of the estimation people had of him during his presidency, particularly, and right after it. But look what he did. He brought together Egypt and Israel, a fantastic thing. Habitat for Humanity, what he did there. And, how many people did he and the First Lady Rosalind Carter house? How many did they feed? It's just an extraordinary, extraordinary person. I am honored to have known him. I was honored that he invited me to his very first White House state dinner. I was so, I was kind of almost a New York hillbilly at the time. I was very honored by that, honored to know him. And, we've known about his critical health situation for many, many months. But we're all praying for him, and we know that if there's a heaven, Jimmy Carter has a front row seat.
Yeah.